Since you liked the previous video about Nelisagi's situation and his potential refresh or rework that can bring him to the current meta, so today we're talking about Don Lorenzo. And not just any regular talk. We're diving into whether he actually needs a light refresh, a couple of well-placed buffs, or even something as big as a full-on rework. Now, before we get into the details, I already know some of you are going to rush to the comments and say, why are you even suggesting changes for Don Lorenzo? He's already good. And look, I totally get where you're coming from. Don Lorenzo is a solid pick. He's fun, he's stylish, and his playstyle definitely stands out. But just hear me out. The thing is, despite being a world-class style that feels amazing to use, Don Lorenzo hasn't really been keeping up with the rest of the roster in terms of versatility and raw strength. Especially now that we've got mythic defenders like Aiku, who, even after the recent nerfs, can arguably outperform Lorenzo both defensively and offensively. Aiku has a dash, a, yes, weak trap move, a powerful shot, and more overall utility. Meanwhile, Don Lorenzo lacks some of those options. And yeah, golden defense is great, but one amazing move doesn't make up for what he's missing overall. And this brings me to a really important point. Just like I said in my last video, when I bring up terms like refresh or rework, it's not because I want these characters to become broken or ridiculously OP. That's not the point. What I'm talking about is balance. I'm talking about giving these underused or overlooked styles the little push they need to become viable again, to be seen more frequently in matches, and to give players more variety and fun when they queue up. If we're being honest, when's the last time you saw Don Lorenzo more than once or twice in a whole day of playing? Sure, it's better than Nelisagi's visibility, but that's not saying much. Compared to other world-class styles, Lorenzo still feels like he's under the radar. So before we go any deeper, if you're enjoying this kind of content, or you've been tuning into the recent discussions we've been having, I'd really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. We're growing every day, and your support means everything. Alright, let's dive into it. Let's take a step back and remember who Don Lorenzo was when he first dropped. The golden child of defense, the guy who made players feel like real defenders. Golden defense was iconic, it still is, and the whole kit felt smooth and satisfying. The sound effects, the animations, even the vibe of hearing Lorenzo shout, "Yo, Michael," during Awakening, it all clicked. It was fun, clean, and genuinely balanced. But here's the catch, while he's still fun, he's also slowly falling behind. It's not that he's weak, it's just that everyone else keeps getting stronger, more flexible, and more overloaded. And that makes a guy like Don Lorenzo, who's built around straightforward mechanics and defense-focused gameplay, feel more one-dimensional. We need tweaks, just small changes, not a full overhaul, that can elevate his playstyle without turning him into a meta-breaking monster. And I actually came across a great suggestion from the community that I think does a really good job of respecting Lorenzo's identity, while still improving his viability. Here's the breakdown. Move C, Zombie Dribble. This stays as is, but it gets a follow-up. Once used, you can chain into Zombie Dash. Move C, Zombie Dash. This gets a small range reduction, but now drops the ball directly into your possession, which is a big plus. If you lose or pass the ball after Zombie Dribble, you can still use Zombie Dash off the ball for 2 seconds. Oh, and now it doesn't make the ball unpickable, which was always a weird mechanic to begin with. Move C, Terrifying Snatch, OTB variant. This is a new off-the-ball move. Lorenzo lunges forward and grabs any ball on the ground or in the air with a wider range than Aiku's Periscope. It doesn't skip iframes and has its own separate, longer cooldown. Move V, Wicked Pass. This is the pass move from his Awakening, but without the cutscene. It happens instantly, and you can pick who receives the pass. It even comes with iframes and auto-aim similar to Sei, but with less range. Move B, Golden Defense, OTB. This one stays close to the original, but with a few tweaks. The block lasts 1 second longer, has a slightly larger hitbox, but it no longer steals through ball possession. It also has a much longer cooldown now, with a 15 to 30 second global cooldown to prevent goal camping. Awakening changes. Let's start with that iconic Yo Michael moment. Now, it's not just for show. When you activate it and successfully steal the ball, it stuns the opposing player you stole from for a solid 1.5 seconds. And no, goalkeepers aren't affected by this, so it's not going to break the game, but it adds a nice edge. The counterattack move? It's been revamped too. It no longer forces a pass. Instead, it's all about power and speed now. The devs boosted the shot's strength and speed, making it a real threat when you catch your opponent off guard. Undead mode has been turned up a notch. Now it grants full iframe protection, and here's the kicker. It can break through dribble moves. That's a game changer, especially against styles that rely on tight control. Oh, and here's something that just makes perfect sense. You can now trigger Lorenzo's awakening off the ball. Given how much of his kit is about intercepting and off-ball pressure, this feels like a natural and welcome evolution. The best part? This whole refresh doesn't even touch his cutscenes or animations. It respects what makes Don Lorenzo feel unique while bringing his core gameplay more in line with current standards. And speaking of standards, let's talk about Kaiser for a second. Because honestly, it's time we ask, does he need a buff too? If we look at the nerfs he's gotten, his Kaiser volley, his Emperor dribble range, and most importantly, his Kaiser impact, it kind of feels like he's been slowly chipped away at. Kaiser impact used to be this high-speed, high-power shot that felt worthy of his character. Now, it's just okay. And that's not what a world-class style should be. A lot of people are saying Kaiser needs a buff in either shot speed, shot range, or maybe even just to bring back the intensity of his old moves. At this point, even Nell, Rayo, and King are outperforming most world-class styles, including Kaiser. It's worth the conversation. And while we're on the topic of underutilized styles, I want to bring up something that's been on my mind for a while. Classic Rin, the version we had before Nell Rin took over. That older Rin, with just a few well-placed buffs, could absolutely return as one of the strongest mythic styles in the game. Honestly, all he really needs is a slight increase to his curve shot damage, and some updated, flashier animations during Awakening. His toolkit was already pretty solid and fun to use, but right now it just feels a bit outdated compared to the modern powerhouses. Bringing back that version of Rin, not as a full rework, but just a polished-up return, could be a fantastic way to give longtime players a taste of nostalgia and restore balance to the mythic tier pool. So yeah, I really want to know what you all think. Do you still feel like Don Lorenzo is in a solid place, or do you agree that a light refresh could take him back to the spotlight? Maybe you like the concept we broke down here, or maybe you'd take it even further. Feel free to let me know how you'd tweak his moveset. And what about Kaiser? Do you think he's due for a comeback after all those nerfs? His impact just isn't what it used to be, and with other world-class styles catching up or even surpassing him, it might be time for a serious revisit. Let's get the conversation going in the comments. I'll be reading all of them. And of course, if you're enjoying these kinds of deep dives, refresh ideas, and overall Blue Lock Rivals discussion, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, and hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.